guys. Okay, today we are going to go over Subject Verb Agreement. This is part 2 of your Writing Better Sentences workshop. All right, so Subject Verb Agreement is easy to understand if you just understand 5 simple rules. Once you understand all of these rules for Subject Verb Agreement, it's really easy. You can write better sentences. Okay, so the first rule we're going to go over tonight is the most important rule you can learn. Subjects and verbs must match. They have to agree. Okay? And what this means is a singular subject must have a singular verb. And likewise, a plural subject must have a plural verb. Okay? As long as you can learn this rule, everything going forward is going to be a lot easier. Okay, now, rule number 2. Indefinite pronouns are always singular. Indefinite pronouns like everyone, each, and everybody are always singular, even if they seem to be plural. Let's look at some of the examples that we have down below. Okay? Everyone on the team is proud to be a member. The team seems plural, but when you say everyone, you must use a singular verb. Now, don't get confused when they put phrases and words in between the pronoun and verb, especially if those are plural words. In the next example we see here, we see each of the team members is happy to have such a wonderful coach. Each is the pronoun we're worried about. Each is happy. We need to have the singular verb. Rule number 3. If you're not sure whether something should be considered singular or plural, check to see if it's countable. Let me clarify this a little bit. Always ask yourself, is it countable? Okay? Pronouns like all and some, they should have plural verbs if they're referring to something that is countable. Let's look at the example. Some of the boys in the hallway were getting rowdy. Boys are countable, so the verb must be plural. Some were. Let's look at another example. Some of the water was absorbed by the sponge. Water is not countable. It's just one quantity, so the verb must be singular. Some was. Now, on a side note, please remember, none is typically singular, but it could be plural in certain circumstances. Again, ask yourself, is it countable? Let me clarify another point here. The next point I want to make is if you're talking about fractions and decimals also follow the is it countable rule. Let's look at the example. 3/4 of the cake is ruined. 3/4 is ruined. 1/2 of the children were convinced that they saw Santa Claus fly over the mall. 1/2 were. Children are countable. Cake, pieces of cake may be countable, but cake itself is not countable. So 3/4 is ruined. 3/4 of the cake is ruined. 1/2 of the children were convinced. Let's look at the last example here. A majority of the team members were in favor of having an additional practice session. The team members are countable. So once again, a majority were, right? Seems singular, but is it countable? Yes, we can count team members. We can count children. We can't count the cake. The cake is one quantity. Let's look at rule number 4. Don't be confused by phrases within your sentence. Okay, so let's look at the example here. Phrases that start with, together with, along with, and as well as, they're not part of the subject. Unless they're combined to the subject with and, making it a compound subject, they're not part of the subject, so you have to ignore them. Let's look at the examples and see how this applies. Some of the water in the bowl, as well as some of the crackers on the plate, was spilled during the earthquake. Your real sentence is, some of the water in the bowl was spilled during the earthquake. Even though it's frustrating because crackers on the plate would make it plural, that's not part of your subject. Your subject is, some of the water in the bowl was spilled during the earthquake. Next, look at the next example. The new law before the City Council, together with some of the other laws they must consider, is going to require drivers to pay a lot to park on the streets. The real sentence is, the new law before the City Council is going to require drivers to pay a lot to park on the streets. So you match up the law with is, not the plural, which would be together with some of the other laws. Okay? Rule number 5, and this one's important. When either and neither are subjects, they're always singular, unless they appear with or and nor, but we'll talk about the exceptions later. Either and neither are always singular when they're subjects. Look at the example. Neither of these options appears equitable. Neither appears singular. Either is fine with me. Either and is singular. Now, there's one final exception I want you to think about. You need to beware of long, complex sentences. Let me give you an example. If we take this long sentence here, okay, where we're going to put a lot of information between the subject and verb, you have to make sure you don't get confused. Here's the sentence. Stephen Hawking, one of the world's most prominent scientists, and as a founder of the Center for Theoretical Cosmology at Cambridge, one of the most important figures in the world of physics since Einstein, has been working diligently since he was given only 2 years to live in 1963. There's a lot in that sentence. The simple sentence, really, is Stephen Hawking has been working diligently since he was given only 2 years to live in 1963. All of that other information could confuse you because scientists and figures appear in the sentence, but they don't have any effect on the singular verb has. Well, that's it. Congratulations. You're done. As long as you follow these rules, you should be pretty good. Now it's time to go do your worksheets.